Tots, and welcome to the Dick Family Basement on this wonderful, just 1 second, January 30th. This is Thursday. It is the weekly rundown. Yeah, too bad, Deacon Dave, you got a bad sleep. I got a pretty good sleep, although I worked out, what was it, a couple days ago. I'm still sore. I'm still trying to get some... just some muscles on this body, and it's like this in the 50s. It is tough. It is tough. Anyone that knows the struggle is real. You can phone in at 1-844-340-5001. Leave a message there. I will be, once we get a little bit more of people listening to the weekly rundown, I will for sure have that so that you can phone in and be live and in person with me. There is one thing I forgot to check out. Just 1 second here. I need to do this here. This is why I need a co-host, and they can fill in all this empty time here. It doesn't even tell me. Okay. Anyways, back to the show. So I do my live stream here on intheredeemer.com. Also, I simultaneously cast on X at Catholic Mashup, and if you follow me there on X, you get the updates for everything that's going on in the Redeemer. It's like this, so it's kind of cool. If you actually use X, I only use X to basically put stuff on there like this, like when the podcast is coming up. I do have a few different accounts or whatever that I do different things with. I have Thoughts for the Thoughtless, where I basically just post, and I haven't posted in a few weeks though, but it's just about the books I'm reading and stuff like that. And then I have a Lazy Board Gamer, which I post about board games, which, believe it or not, I've been playing lots more board games than usual. So that's pretty funny. That's pretty awesome. Special shout out to my wife, Catherine, for that. Oh yeah. What is the sports rundown? Okay. I can't believe this. It's Eagles, Kansas City, and I don't know. Okay, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl, at least the first half, see how the game's going to turn out or whatever. But I'm not excited about the teams at all. At all. I don't really like the Eagles. I've never liked the Eagles, full stop. And they're playing Kansas City. I don't like the Kansas City Chiefs. And all you Kansas City Chief fans out there, do you remember when Christian Okoye played on their team? If you don't even know who Christian Okoye is or what position he played, then you're not a real fan. You're just a bandwagon, okay? And I see a lot of bandwagon Kansas City Chief fans out there. So, and the Eagles fans, yeah, I don't know. It's just a joke in of itself. But anyways, they are in the Super Bowl, so hats off to them. They're good franchises in a sense. They can get the Super Bowl, especially Kansas City. I think it's all about Kansas City. It's all about their coach. Andy Reid, he is amazing. That's the only person I like of that franchise. So good hats off to him. Maybe they three-peat. That's something. That's something awesome if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, but for everyone else, it is not. Okay, the T-Wolves just beat the Suns yesterday, which is pretty good. I was trying to figure out what their winning streak is right now. I cannot. So they're 7th in the West. They need to get out of the play-in, okay? So they need to be 6 and above. We need to take that 6th place. I think the Clippers are there. The Mavs are not doing too well. Luke is still out. We have a lot of time to gain. But this year, especially this year, the T-Wolves just like to self-sabotage. They're going to do something crazy. They're going to do something stupid, and we're gonna be pushed into the play-in tournament at the end of the year. I don't know. I'm not very hopeful this year, although individual performances have been awesome. Anthony Edwards has been really, really good. Even Rudy Gobert, the most hated NBA player right now, is doing not bad. Julius Randle has not lived up to the hype, if there was any hype. I know some people are rolling their eyes. There was no hype in that trade, but he's not, he's doing okay. Dante DiVincenzo is out for pretty much the rest of the year, the rest of the season. That was a big blow. It's very integral what the T-Wolves do. Connolly's not doing, he had a horrible start. He's not doing too bad. Anyways, that being said, they beat the Suns yesterday. Awesome. Always like it when someone beats KD, so it's always good. The Bucks lost to the Trailblazers. Okay? I forget who they're playing today, but they're still fourth in the East, so they're still in contentions. They're still in the hunt. I think you have Boston and Cleveland kind of the top of the heap, and then everyone else is like definitely a second tier. But definitely Bucks, if they make some noise during the trade deadline, we could see a whole new team, whole new energy. Dame and Giannis are doing really well. Dame, I think, is going to the All-Star game, which is kind of amazing, but he is doing some really good performances, and he's doing well, and Giannis is doing Giannis things. I think if Jokic was having an off year or not a good year, he would be probably top there with the MVP. I think, to be very honest, Jokic is having a better year than he ever had, even for his MVP years, but who knows if he'll get it. That'll be 3 MVPs. I don't know. Shea might be the one that is going to get that. So yeah, so my basketball team played yesterday. We were still undefeated. Yesterday was the worst game we played. I don't know what happened to my guys. It just kind of fell apart. We still won. That being said, we still won. It was ugly though. I think the problem is that we always play our game. This time we had a little bit of pushback. This is probably the best team in the sense of talent on the floor. And we just kind of collapsed. We just kind of did very stupid things. I have a player that did a few stupid things. So he was benched for most of the game. He hardly played any of the game. He's one of our more dominant players in the sense of his size and stuff like that, and his skill set. And the last 3 minutes, we played not bad basketball and we pulled it out of the fire. Although I think we were leading right through the whole game. From like the first 3 minutes, I think they were up maybe by 2 or 3, and then definitely by half we were always in the lead. But we could have done better. It is one of those times where you win, but it doesn't feel good. Like we're practicing this morning, and it's going to be a hard practice for them. Big wake up call. The funny thing is that my really good players, talent wise, didn't play well yesterday, and a lot of my elite a guy that could, and I'm not exaggerating, could play after high school is just so lethargic. He doesn't want to play, and it really frustrates me. Like, he could easily get 40 points a game, and I'm not exaggerating. Like, he is like, when he's on the court, when he actually plays and locked in, it's like there is a man with a bunch of kindergarten students, and he wouldn't be sometimes not the tallest guy on the court, but his skills are amazing. Probably one of the best skilled players I've ever coached, at least in the top 5, at least. But just doesn't look like he wants to play. Anyways, so that's my basketball team for the day. If you have any questions about sports or basketball or anything else, maybe even cricket, I do watch a little bit of cricket, you can phone me at 1-844-3405-001. Okay, so here is the 3 articles that I have. I really didn't realize that two of the 3 articles, or 2 of the 3 things I've posted to read, are about immigration or population growth or whatever. The first document I want to talk about is our article from the Independent on January 29th. And it discusses the Office of National Statistics indicating that Britain's population will increase by nearly 5 million over the next decade, primarily due to net immigration. Now, if you remember, a few weeks ago, I talked about how the UK government is trying to build more houses. And it just is ridiculous to think they can build houses even to meet the needs of their current population. But as it is now, I think that the UK has a bigger population than France at this time, and this is the first time in I don't know how long. It's interesting. The number of people aged over 85 is projected to double to $3.3 million by 2047. So I know that's way in the future, and how does anyone know that far into it? But that is an incredible number. That will have a huge significance on their social services and stuff like that. It's just huge. And of course, what's the reactions to this? The Conservative Party, the Tories, propose a legal cap on visas to manage population growth. The Labor Party, who is in power right now, rejected this and focused instead on policies that reduce net migration without setting arbitrary caps. So those are the two main parties in the UK. Now, the third party, which made huge noises in the last election, like I mean huge, it's the Farage party, which is the Reform UK's. He criticizes both parties, and I think he's right in some ways. For allowing what he describes as population explosion, and he believes it reduces quality of life. This is something interesting that I've noted before, is that there is lots of criticism from people that want to have open borders or more immigrations like this, and they criticize religious people like myself to say that, it is against Christ's teaching to not welcome the neighbor and everything else like this. And it shows just the total ignorance of the Catholic faith or the Christian faith. There is something called subsidiarity, which means is that we should be taking care of people or being responsible for people like this that are closest to us. Biblically, there is nothing wrong in a sense to take care of our nation first, right? Like for instance, there's a burning fire, a huge tragedy, and your son or daughter is trapped in there with someone else. Who are you going to save first? No one's going to criticize you if you run in and save your daughter or son or your relative, right? It is a very interesting thing, is that we need to have a strong country in order to help others. And I think one of the really interesting things is that instead of, and I'm okay with immigration, actually. I think immigration is a good if it's done properly, because I think here in Canada especially, we've given people who want to immigrate here a false hope, right? And that's not good for them. I think too is that I think as our foreign affairs hopefully matures and develops, hopefully after this liberal government, we can really concentrate on helping people where they're at in the countries they are in, and allowing and maybe going in there and teaching them proper bureaucratic structures and stuff like this. We've not done that in the past because we believe in this sort of cultural relevancy, which means is that, whatever culture they are in is just as good as ours. The Western culture is just as bad and just as good as any other culture, which is not true. There is a hierarchy of how we order our societies. And I think it would be good, and I think it would be really beneficial for the world community that Canada, with our expertise in bureaucracy and even governance, to go and give that to other people that are really struggling with that. Maybe going to places in Africa and show them how to set up bureaucracies and stuff like this. Huge population growth over a short period of time is not good for anyone. And we need to be very concerned about that. Anyway, so the next article is the South China Morning Post on January 28th, titled "Panic Despair for Refugees in Hong Kong." The only reason why I like this article, in a sense, is that it really talks a lot. So this is a foreign paper talking a lot about Canadian policy on immigration and talking about how basically the U.S. policy change reflects what Canada did. I didn't know this. Following Canada's decision in November to pause its private sponsorship of refugees for groups of 5 or more until the end of the year, and a 20% reduction in immigration levels. I didn't know that we've reduced that immigration level that low or that much, in a sense. Although I just listened to the CBC, I guess there's going to be a big, huge bureaucratic, I was going to say sell-off, but that's not the case, layoffs and stuff like that within the bureaucratic class here in Canada. And a lot of it's going to be immigration. The only fear I have, I'm always for a smaller government, don't get me wrong, is that there is such a backlog of stuff that needs to be done that I just would think as how we can incentivize getting through that backlog and then cutting staff. I don't know how to do that properly, but the explosion, the total explosion in Canada for the bureaucratic class is just huge. Next week, I'm going to try to find an article on it or some sort of study, but like the COVID really expanded the bureaucratic class here in Canada to what I think is mind-boggling. And now I think before leadership the election here in Canada, and especially with the Liberals, going to vote for a new leader, I think there is a hurry to try to reform a little bit of that. So it's a good. It is a good article talking about Hong Kong's role in immigration and stuff like that. Hong Kong does not grant asylum, but provides protection from people who's proven cases. So they have, it's kind of a way, like a place, a holding place for people that are looking for asylum here in Hong Kong. So it's interesting to and people have described it as the worst case scenario, both Canada and the United States tightening up their immigration. Last but not least, I try to share a very old Canadian magazine. Today, it's the Busy Man's magazine. I forget which. It's like, just hold on here a second. It is November 07 is the date. I'm not going to go through it all because it's quite long, but even in 08, so this is November 08, it's a long magazine. It's like this. It talks about the new president of the Toronto University. There's a little bit of successful story of this gentleman who went to $12 a week as a clerk to earning $40,000 a year, which would be mind-blowing amounts of money back in 07. It also has a really good article on labor in Canada, about labor unions and stuff like this. Also, too, there is a short story by Jack Layton, which is pretty awesome. What else is good? It's a discussion on Japan as a world menace, which is pretty cool, even in 07. So I suggest you, or I encourage you to read it over and maybe email me or leave me a message on my 1844 number, just talking about the magazine here. I love the title too. Maybe if I had a lot of money, I'd reboot a magazine in Canada called The Busy Man's Magazine, which is just awesome. So anyways, I'm going to try to get a obscure magazine in every week, and then hopefully we can have some discussions about it. It's pretty cool. And also Race for the Rocky Mountains, and about the detailing the competition between the railroads, which is pretty cool. Growth of Canada in the 20th century. And basically what that growth, and I think it's kind of interesting. So 07, they really talked about infrastructure in Canada. And I think here we are, 2025, and we're still talking about the same thing, this infrastructure that unites the whole of Canada. And I think that's one of the good things, maybe the only good thing that will come out of Trump's relationship with Canada, is that we will start focusing again. There's actually two good things about it. We'll focus again on infrastructure, which means interprovincial trade. Like we need to take down interprovincial trade barriers and really invest in infrastructure to really unite Canada from sea to sea. There's 3 C's. Anyways, a second thing that I think Trump will do that'd be a positive is that Canada radically needs to rethink how we do things, full stop. And The Line, there's a podcast called The Line, which their most recent one really talks about that. And they have some really, they suggest we need to be like a world leader in energy. We need to have like a mini nuclear power reactors at every mall and everything else like this. And just, to update our military to get more people in. Anyways, it's a very good, I won't steal their thunder, but it was really good. So anyways, hopefully I'll get some comments on the Busy Man's magazine. So what games am I playing? I'm playing Cleopatra Architects. It's Cleopatra and the Society of Architects, Gemblo, right now. So hopefully tonight we'll play another game of Cleopatra and the Society of Architects. It's a super fun game, pretty easy. It's kind of cool. There's these big chunky pieces that you can place on the board. But right now I am reorganizing my board games because they were a little bit out of hand. And one of the reasons is we're trying to find our remote control, which we've lost for about 4 months. I've been using my phone to do the menus and everything else on my Google TV. And so I thought, okay, 4 months, we've lost it. It's got to be within my board game. So I'm starting to clean it out, and it's a big hassle. It's a gong show down here. And then Serafina found it in our chair, which I thought we looked at it. I thought we did. But anyways, we did not. So anyways, that's the news. That is news about games. We're playing solo games. If you are in the Moose Jaw area and would like to play a board game, please let me know. What books am I reading? So I've been reading. I just finished this the Penetrator 13 Dixie Death Squad. Okay, I'm glad I read it. It's pretty. It was published in '76. It's a pretty straightforward. I don't think there's lots of books in the series. I probably won't read them. It wasn't as racy as I thought it would be. There's only one kind of very short scene that was like sexual in nature. But it was very flat. It wasn't very interesting to say about plot twists or anything else like this. But I'm glad I read it because it really shows this switch of ideas about women. So it's in '76, so we can say that this is kind of the push of feminism within culture and whatever. And so in this book, which is a popular book, it's not literature or anything else like this, but it does reflect, I think, kind of well the current ideas or the current trends in society. And the main evil character is a woman, but it is so fantastical. Like the whole book is a fantastical book, but it's so fantastical is that they needed to make this woman as manly as possible and do really unwomanly things, right? She is a colonel. She is called Colonel King. It's like this. And she is, enslaves children and everything else. It's just so over the top, right? And I think there's a trend in this popular fiction to make characters, the villains, women, but in such a way make them cartoony. And then as we approach, the '80s, the late '80s, like this, that evilness of women takes its own form, but still male, but a little bit more female or feminine and stuff like this. It is really interesting, and I could talk a lot about that sort of trend within feminism to masculization of women, even in popular literature. But anyways, I'm currently reading Doomsday Warrior number 12. I'm reading a group of books that deal with post-apocalyptic worlds like this, and I'm going to get to that later on. Doomsday Warrior number 12, Death American Style. I love that name, Death American Style. Anyways, it is okay. Has a lot of different plot lines, which is kind of weird in this type of writing, but I'll give you my full review next week. We're still watching Abbott Elementary. Actually, we just watched the most recent episode yesterday. It was actually really good. Lately, it was kind of flat. It wasn't very funny. Yesterday, it was pretty funny. There's this one of the main characters that really dislikes eating food, really, and that's the whole sort of shtick in that episode, which was really good. Night Agent season 2. We have one more episode left. It's okay, I guess. Definitely not as good as first season. So yeah, that's what we've been watching. There's a new segment of our weekly rundown. Whoa, sorry about that. That's a maple bug. And it's called What About This? So just kind of ideas creatively or whatever, but just basically the question is what about this? So like I said, I've been reading lots of post-apocalyptic popular, I was going to say literature. It's not literature, but popular writing. And what about this? This is an idea for me. Like write a post-apocalyptic story, like a popular story, nothing really highbrow, that the church is the only institution that survives. Because I think that would be true. I think that would be really compelling. Because think about it for a minute. We have a whole sort of infrastructure. The Catholic Church has this whole worldwide infrastructure. And it could be used for many different things, not only of relaying information, but of goods and everything else. It would be an alternative sort of infrastructure of the state or anything else, or even companies in a sense. There's no company on the face of this earth that reaches more people in a very orderly way. And I know there's Brother Lieber, Canticle for the Brother Lieberlitz, I think is the word. I know I'm butchering that. I've only, a couple years ago I read maybe half it, and that's kind of ish that book, but not really. And that's kind of, I would say, not really kind of the book that I'm looking for. That's a little bit more highbrow than what I am looking into. But I think that would be cool. If anyone has a suggestion that book has actually been written, or that series of books has actually been written, let me know. And it doesn't, for me, good writing, should have like a morality tale, of course, but it doesn't have to be explicitly religious. I think John Steinbeck is a great writer, but his writing is very nihilistic in a sense that there's no ontology there. And I think they're good books. I think they're good, not only writing, but it's good to show that if you don't believe in God, this is the emptiness the world has to offer, and it's unreal. I think John Steinbeck's it's kind of weird. There's this hyper realism that turns into almost fantasy in a sense, especially in the Grapes of Wrath. Anyways, that's a whole different story. But yeah, I think that would be good. So what about this, right? A post-apocalyptic story that the church is the only institution that survives. Hugh, you could do that. You could write. You could probably, make a good living writing like maybe 15 volumes of that sort of story. Okay, disputed area. Okay, here it is. Apathy is so bad. I really cannot stand apathy. And it's just about anything. Like, I'll give you a good example of this. There's this lady, elderly lady, her husband died, and I used to visit them in their house weekly or whatever. And one day she was a little bit distraught or whatever, and she said, like, someone said you could be too religious. And she said, like, how can you be too religious if you know the true God? If you know, Jesus Christ in this church, and you allow him to take, hold of your life, how can you be too religious? And that really stuck with me. How can you be? How can you be? No, of course there's fanatics or whatever, but that's not being too religious. Fanaticism perverts religion or ideas in such a way that it becomes not their, not true any longer, right? Seraphina's now down here distracting me, so it's kind of hard to focus here. Hello, good morning, Seraphina. Yeah, I understand. So that's, you can't, right? You can't be too religious, right? If it's like this. So, but I think that people think that because we're so apathetic. People say, like, why do you take those things so seriously? Well, because it's a serious matter. I even like people who are passionate about like silly things or things that don't really matter. One of the kids asked me, so I dress up in a bow tie and everything else for all the games. And one of the kids said, like, why do you do that? Why do you look like a businessman? Of course I don't. I look like kind of cartoony, but anyways, because I said to him, like, this is serious business. I want you to know that this is serious that we're doing. We are playing basketball. It's serious business. And a lot of kids, a lot of people that I interact with on a daily basis are just fine being apathetic about everything. And it's so bad. I think it's the root of the problems we're having in our world right now, is that there is nothing that really galvanizes us together. There's nothing that will break us out of our apathy kind of universally. That's how come sometimes you look around and what galvanizes, unfortunately, societies and people is like negative things that are happening, existential crisis of someone trying to attack you or something like that galvanizes a population. How do we do that without any sort of crisis? I don't know. Only through Jesus Christ, really. And yeah, it frustrates me. It's very frustrating. My inconsequential hot take, my last thing of the day, is I think hot, spicy food tastes good. Like not the experience of the hot food or whatever. People say, oh, I like hot food because of the experience of the endorphins. And that's a positive, I guess. But I actually like the taste of hot food. Like I like the taste of hot food and stuff like that. But a lot of people say, no, hot food tastes gross. It's like, why Father Malone would say, like, I don't like food that attacks me. I like it. It tastes good. Objectively, it tastes all right. Not even all right. It tastes good. I really like spicy food. That is the episode for today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all of you that listen to me during the day. We will be having our Divine Mercy Chaplet at 7 a.m. So in about 15 minutes, please stick around and join us for that. Until next time, God bless. Have a great day and keep it crispy, Tater Tots. Bye.